All right, we are live. What is up, swimmers and swammers? Welcome back to another episode of the SwimSwam Breakdown. As always, I'm your host, Coleman Hodges, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York, joined by the swim scribe, David Clossy from St. Cloud, Minnesota. And we have quite a bit to discuss today. The last stop in the World Cup happened in Toronto this past weekend. That saw 8 world records go down. We had seen 5 world records at the previous 2 stops combined in Carmel and Westmont. And then Toronto just said, you know what? I'm not really feeling that. Let's turn up the volume a little bit. So we also have some NCAA action to discuss, but we are going to start with the World Cup today. David, just to start things off, of those 8 world records we saw in Toronto, which one impressed you the most?
That is a very tough question to answer because we did see some absolutely incredible world records. I think I might have to go with, though, the very first one that we saw, which was Josh Liendo in that 100 butterfly, because that was a nice mix of taking down a fast swim, a massive improvement for Liendo through all 3 stops, and then that just kind of adding that element of surprise, especially because he was never ahead of world record pace until the final 25. So it's like, oh, he's going quick. He's going quick. Hey, that world record line's that. Oh my God. And that was super crazy to watch. And just the fact that we now have a third swimmer that swam a 47-second 100 butterfly. He just clipped the world record. So it's probably the smallest margin on a world record that we saw. But I think just with the fact that Liendo, I mean, he went from in Carmel in the 100 butterfly, he was a 50.20. He dropped 2.52 seconds over the course of 3 stops.
Yeah.
That is crazy. And he was the very first ever crown buster getting that $2,500 bonus check, which adds, again, a reason why adding those bonuses in is pretty cool, giving that reward to the swimmer that manages to topple the reigning champion in that. So that was a super impressive record. And I do think it's funny that there's one comment thread on, I think, one of the live recap articles saying it was wrong because they forgot that he has the 200 butterfly world record, Florida record rather. But that at least in his primary events, he's got a world record before he got a Florida team record.
Wow. I did not realize that one, which is insane to say. But yeah, I mean, yeah, his world record was certainly surprising. I mean, I think we were even surprised when Noe broke that world record last year that had previously belonged to Caleb Dressel. But then to see Josh Liendo drop nearly 2 seconds from in the course of like 6 days from Westmont to Toronto. It seems like a lot of things shifted for him. Someone was saying he's kind of been dealing with nagging illness for the last few months, but then also just, he's getting into short course meters racing. I think his face was certainly not shaved, which was also quite notable, to break a world record with a noticeable goatee. But I think the rest of him was shaved. So he probably was feeling a bit faster. He had a little more rest. This is his home pool. This is where he trained through the age of 18 until he moved to Florida. So I'm guessing he had a lot of things pointing in his direction or going his way at this meet, but still did not expect him to just completely knock the door down on that 100 fly field, and certainly on the 100 fly world record. So I'm with you. It was quite impressive. I think I have to give my most impressive award, though, to Lonnie Pallister, who not only broke a Katie Ledecky world record, she demolished it by over 3 seconds, 7:54.00, taking it from 7:57.4, I think 7:54 mid, which I think a lot of people were predicting a Lonnie Pallister world record at some point in this World Cup, but I certainly didn't see that coming.
So I
Especially
actually
after
have I have the splits compared here because I'm working at a video for it. So I was working on this today.
Let's
I
see
can
it.
have both in here.
Yeah, so if you're looking at this, you can see that she was
She was
faster.
faster on every split except for the 7th 100, and that was only 8 100 slower. So she was outsplitting Ledecky by a decent margin. She basically had her biggest difference at the top, and then kind of the gap got closer and closer as it went on. Was a little bit slower on that 7th 100, and then had an even faster closing kick. I was kind of waiting for, I saw how far ahead of the world record she was, which was kind of expected. She tends to go out a bit more aggressively than Ledecky, which is kind of crazy given how Ledecky is really good at that.
Yeah.
But we've seen this in 1500s and stuff before she kind of falls off. I was waiting for that world record line to just kind of, I was expecting her to break it, but for it to come back on her, the fact she got by 3.4 seconds is crazy, and managed to put extra distance on the end there. So while you talk, I'll just get out of frame so we can look at the splits if they want.
I mean, you said a lot, but yeah, we've seen Lonnie Pallister develop over the last few years specifically. I mean, she's just gotten better and better. At the 2022 Short Course World Championships in Melbourne, we saw her sweep the distance events. She went 4 golds in the 400, 800, 1500, and 4x2. Like Ledecky, she is lethal in the 200 free as well, and she has become a mainstay for Australia's 4x2 free relay. So we know she has that speed. She's been consistently placing second in this World Cup in the 200 free behind Molly O'Callaghan, who's breaking the world record twice. And so you know that Lonnie has this speed. I think she was 800 in Carmel, and then she flipped it 803 to the feet going out for her 1500 in Westmont. And she even said in her post-race interview, I thought about time trialing the 800 like in the mile. So she would like touch at the 800 and then keep going for another 700. And she's like, but then I realized that like that last 700 would be really gnarly, and I didn't totally want to do that. So I just, decided to wait for Toronto and see if I could get that world record there. But I mean, yeah, she did it. And she did it with flying colors, which was just very cool to see. Her first world record, and no less a Katie Ledecky world record, which I know that Katie Ledecky didn't swim short course meters the most, or put the most emphasis on it, but to break a Katie Ledecky world record in any course is insane. And to break it by that much is pretty staggering. So very impressed by Lonnie's effort there.
It's also an absolutely ridiculous personal best for her. Her best time from was, I think you said 2022, is an 801.95, and then she was right off of that in Carmel. It's an 802 like oh.
Okay.
And then I was looking at her splits from her old personal best. The only, because you saw how for the first 400 she was under a minute, and she had a couple 58s in there too, and then was real quick on the last one too. The only of her 8 100-meter splits from her old personal best where she was under 1 minute was the first one. And she had a 101 in there too. So that is showing just some speed and increased like speed throughout the entire race, not just only on the top end or only on the back end. So it's just an all around great improvement, which, like you said, mirrors the ridiculous improvements we saw over the course of like a year in the long course pool, showing that she's not going anywhere, and that hopefully she's going to be sticking right there with Ledecky and McIntosh, and what we're going to hope to be some pretty intense clashes over the next couple of years.
Well, and if you watched her interview that I did in Toronto, that's up on SwimSwam now, you will hear her give a shout out to the SwimSwam time converter, who, when she was asked, like, did you think 754 was possible? And she gave a whole spiel on the SwimSwam time converter saying, well, if you put my 805 from long course into the SwimSwam time converter, it's usually about 1.5 seconds per 100 from long course to short course. And so if you put my 805 in, it comes out as 753. So, it was pretty spot on. It's like, All right, time converter. You don't normally hear praise for it in that way, especially with like a crazy world record, but it got this one right, I guess. So that was also pretty cool to hear from Lonnie right after the race.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But, you know, those are just the most impressive ones. That's only 2 of 8. And we can definitely gush about the other ones because I don't know. I was in Toronto the last day. I went for 24 hours. It was a great business decision for me because we saw 5 world records in that last final session alone, but also just some crazy barriers broken. Kate Douglas, first woman ever under 50 seconds in the 100 short course meter freestyle, 49.93. Casper Corbo, first guy under, and he would probably be my second place just because that 200 barrier has been right there forever. You know, the former world record holder Kirill Pragoda of Russia was 200.1, but then I believe before that it was Marco Koch of Germany, who was 2004. I'm pretty sure Daniel Girda from Hungary was also 200. So there have been so many guys to go 200. Casper's best was 201, I think, heading into this meet. And then he drops a 159.5. So doesn't just dip under the barrier, but like crushed it. And so that was just very cool to see as well, because again, guys have been right there for so long. And then Casper's like, you know what? I'm just going to do it.
So what were you guys even waiting for? This is easy, guys. Why, come on. Why did it take us so long? First guy to ever go a 200 was in 2009, and you guys just couldn't figure this one out?
Exactly.
Is what I imagine he said.
Yeah. Was that Daniel Girda or was that someone else?
It was. I was looking up the progression of it while you were saying that. Yeah, he did that in December 2009 European Championships, and then actually again during the World Cup, he went from 200.67 to 200.48 in 2014. So 5 years later, managed to still be a 200.
Yeah. So I mean, it's what is that? 16 years of 200s.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty cool for Casper. And I mean, I think we're seeing this more and more as well, of just athletes that can do 50, 100, 200 of a stroke really, really well. And that was on full display here at the World Cup. You saw Ilya Karun, triple crown in both the 50 fly and 200 fly. Obviously, Kaylee McEwen and Reagan Smith are both masterful in all 3 backstroke distances. But I think specifically in this circuit, Kaylee McEwen, once again, asserting her backstroke dominance in all 3. She finally won all 3 backstroke races in Toronto after getting some wins in the backstroke. She made it clear that she was the backstroke queen of this stop, breaking her own world record in the 200 back, 157.3, I think.
Yeah, I think it's 33.
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of really impressive swims. But to go back to Casper, he had been right there in all 3 breaststroke distances in all 3 stops of this World Cup. And then to go 55 low in the 100, I think he had said that gave him a good bit of confidence heading into the 200 that he had the going out speed. And he certainly could come home. I think athletes like Daniel Girda, Marco Koch were more of 200 guys. Kirill Pragoda is pretty good in all 3 distances. But obviously you have to have some going out speed to be able to get under that barrier. And Casper had just that.
Especially in short course too, just because you can maintain that higher speed, potentially higher stroke rate, either higher stroke rate or less strokes, insane power behind them, especially if you have a really good pullout too. In short course in particular, can really pay dividends there. And sticking on the men's 200 breaststroke, wasn't a world record, but world junior record in second place. Shin Ohashi, 202.03. He is the swimmer that I've just been keeping an eye on in all 3 of those breaststroke races because he is super fun. I did not realize how short he was also until the first time
5'5".
Yeah, he's 5'5". I'm like, this isn't a podium, right? Like, that's like actually out loud genuinely wonder. I'm like, I thought they were on flat ground, but I'm not really sure right now because he's standing next to Casper and he's coming up to his chest. I was like, but the fact that he was at the especially he kind of got better as the stops went on, and I was really impressed. He's just 16 years old, and in short
Yeah.
push, like I just said, strength
Yeah.
and power play a way bigger factor. 200 breast, he was, I think, at least on the podium. Maybe he finished fourth in Westmont, but he was in the mix. There's some really close finishes in Westmont, I remember, in the 200, and then he was kind of creeping up more and more in the 50 and 100s. Those are the ones I thought he was going to, not even make finals, just because of how
Right.
much that power plays a factor in this. When he's up against grown men, he's gonna be at a bit more of a disadvantage there. It's also crazy to watch some of the watch, just how high his turnover is to kind of compensate for that lack of just like pure explosive power. And that was incredible. And the fact that he was able to cap that off with the world junior record was awesome. And then also you mentioned the women's 200 backstroke. Regan Smith, for the second stop in a row, kind of broke the world record. He was 1/100th under McEwen's old mark, but of course at that time for the second stop in a row was no longer the world record, but just shows how fast these two are.
I mean, it's nuts, right? Like if we would have said Regan Smith goes a 157.86 at any other point in history, everyone would have been like, okay, she's obviously the best. That's not going to get beaten. And but she second. And it was kind of, it really always does. It was the last 25. I think Reagan was about within 0.2 of Kaylee at the 175 wall. And then again, Kaylee just has that closing. I don't even want to say speed. I think it's probably more of just a mentality thing. It's just like she does it, you know? She has that extra push, and Reagan had a phenomenal circuit all around, broke American records, broke world records, but again, is coming in second place a lot because Kaylee McEwen is there, and at this point is inevitable if she is present. Yeah, so that, I mean, and again, this is always must see TV because Reagan did get her licks in. She had a few races to beat Kaylee, and again in that 100, when she tied her own 100 back world record, beat Kaylee by almost a second. But yeah, for the most part, Kaylee McEwen, backstroke queen through and through, no doubt. As well, breaking a big barrier. Molly O'Callahan dipped under 150 for the first time ever of anyone in Westmont, and then did it again 0.4 faster in Toronto, 149.3, and did it with like a bum thumb. We saw the whole bleeding thing, bleeding ordeal in the 100 freestyle final in Westmont, and then in the 100 free final, when Kate went 49.9, I think Molly was second again. Let me double check that. But her cap came off.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so she was 50.8, a very respectable time. Got second. Cap totally fell off, and I was like, "What happened?" And she was like, "Well, I've been double capping this whole time, and the outer cap kept falling off. So I was like, you know what? I'll just try a single cap." And obviously that didn't work either. So she's faced some adversity throughout this circuit, but still had two exceptional world record swims, and which again was just really impressive. And then one other guy we got to mention is Hubert Koch, 100 and 200 back world records. The 200 had been standing for a decade. That was Mitch Larkin's 145.6, and really no one had come close to it. I think they're like, every once in a while you'd see like a 147. That was kind of like Ryan Murphy's NCAA 200 back record for a while, where it really took a while for anyone to catch up. And I wouldn't even say the field has caught up to this record yet, because it was really just Hubie. But 145.1 really just blew it away. And then 48.1 to break Coleman Stewart's 100 back record of 48.3. It's just funny to me that he came into this World Cup circuit saying, after the first stop, he said, Yeah, I would like to, like, those world records are in my vision. I would like to break them one day.
Well,
And little did we know that day came 2 weeks later.
yeah. And it was kind of, I wasn't sure how close he was gonna be. It always felt like a possibility just because he's been so fast and he was, only was it 2/100ths off of that 200 back world record at short course worlds. But it's one of those, how prepared was he for that versus how prepared he's going to be for a World Cup? Weren't really sure. But then as he was kind of showing some speed in the first two stops, felt like he was maybe going to, clip one or both of them. I was so surprised by how much he broke that 200 back world record by. That one felt like it was definitely
Yeah.
on the table. I was thinking about like a tenth or two. He just almost, almost throws down to 144. That was crazy. And
Yeah.
then he also managed to get that Coleman Stewart world record, which was a pretty impressive one there too, especially given his skill set being much more geared towards the 200 backstrokes. So the fact that he's able to hold both backstrokes is very cool.
Well, and so the next topic of discussion is just biggest surprises from the World Cup as a whole. And one of mine would certainly be Hubie Koch's backstroke dominance. We were talking about athletes that can swim 50 up to 200. I don't think anyone had Hubie Koch sweeping the 50 back on their bingo card, or triple crowning. And that was just exceedingly impressive to see, and it wasn't, he didn't dominate all of those 50s. He won
Definitely
one
not
by
Westmont.
100th of a second, but a couple of them he won by 2 or 3 tenths, and so it's like we are used to seeing him be this longer backstroke guy, 200 back world champion, 200 back Olympic champion, but like I think you have to consider him certainly a triple threat, but also just a guy who has a lot of speed now. And I guess maybe this should have been more obvious, seeing as he's swam the 50 fly for Texas on relays. He's done the 100 fly. He's certainly NCAA favorite in the 100 back. But just to see him assert that level of dominance all the way down to the 50 was surprising to me, but also kind of puts him on your radar as like, are we going to see this translate into long course? Like, is he going to go for the 50 back this summer at Europeans or maybe next year at Worlds, especially now that that is on the Olympic docket for 2028? So I'm really interested to see how this will play out in long course for Hubie, because we've seen him have a lot of short course success. But, just last summer, he wins medals in the 200 back and the 200 IM in long course. So it's like he has all this short course speed. I'm wondering how that's going to manifest long course, but that was certainly one of my biggest surprises for the circuit as a whole.
Yeah, for me, it's got to be between stop 2 and stop 3. Just Kate Douglas, 100 freestyle. And honestly, we could extend that one out. That was the cause for Kate Douglas overall. Because Hubie was kind of expected to win the men's side of things, especially after the first stop.
Yeah.
I think we both picked Gretchen to win it. Then mainly because of that 100 freestyle. We're like, yeah, I feel like the third event for Gretchen is probably 100 IM. Butterflies probably put above that. Then I think that's going to be stronger than Douglas's third event, which is 100 freestyle. Oh, and then she starts breaking world records and then becomes the first woman under 50 seconds. That was crazy. That was kind of a 1-2, but not only, world record. Whoa, that's crazy. Can she go even lower? Oh, 49. Cool. Oh, it was enough to elevate her up to win the overall series. That 100 freestyle was the cause of so much surprise out of Kate Douglas. And that was really awesome. And, again, not like I'm surprised that she's good at the 100 freestyle. I'm surprised that she's that good at the 100 freestyle, though. That's crazy.
I mean, and it's been so fun to see. I mean, we put out the article that in the last year, a UVA swimmer has broken an American record on average every 9 days, which is freaking staggering.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's like, and obviously a lot of that has been the Walsh sisters, Alex, Gretchen, and Kate Douglas. And I mean, just the clinic in swimming that they have put on has been incredible. I mean, Gretchen having the performance that she did in Budapest at the 2024 Short Course Worlds, Kate having a similar performance in the 2024 World Cup, and then at Short Course Worlds again, and then this year at the World Cup. I mean, it's and the versatility, right? It's like you never know with these swimmers specifically what event they're going to choose and what they might do in said event. And this seems like it's becoming more and more of a Todd DeSorbo specialty, where it's like, well, let's switch it up. Let's focus on being versatile, and let's see what you can do in some of these other events, and see if that works. And Kate Douglas went from 200 IM, 200 breast, maybe 100 fly or 50 fly last year in the World Cup, or 100 IM.
She was swimming the 50 fly at least. I don't know if she did all 3 stops, but at least some, because she almost broke that world record, and then Gretchen happened.
Yeah, it's like she's got so many events potentially, and so to see her do this, and a lot of the commenters were just like, how can she be this good at the 200 breast and the 100 free? Like, no one else has ever done that. And it's been quite a pleasure to watch, certainly. Yeah.
The closest we see is like, in short course, that 100 free, 100 breast crossover. And that's normally 100 freestylers that are going over to 100 breast, like Caleb Dressel clipping that NCAA record in 2018. 200 breaststroker, as I would say her best event, right? That's the one that she's won Olympic gold in. That's the one that she's dominated the records in short course. So as a normally when you are primarily a 200 breaststroker, you are like the most pigeonholed swimmer other than distance swimmers. You are almost every single other 200 breaststroker is this. I do this one thing. And Kate Douglas is the complete opposite. Not even just slightly versatile, incredibly versatile.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's maybe for like almost every other breaststroker, especially 200 breaststroker, it's like, okay, I do the 100 and the 50 breast as well. Maybe throw in a shorter IM, right? And then that's it. But I mean, I think the only other swimmer we've really seen do that recently, I mean, I guess maybe Alex Walsh and Leon Marchand, and that's pretty good company to keep.
And that makes sense because they're primarily IM swimmers.
Yeah.
So you expect them to kind of be like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was really fun to see. Kate just put on a real clinic. Just all the world records. I mean, 13 world records for the World Cup. Not too shabby. We're going to have some sinker swims about that later on, but I don't know if I would have taken the over on that one, but really exciting that we got such a good World Cup, and excited to see Short Course European Championships at the end of the year now. Interested to see how US Open is going to play out, because that will be long course in Austin. And I know a lot of US athletes are kind of gearing up for that as like the last meet of the year, but it's like no one's raced long course, like what's going to happen. So that's a big unknown. And the World Cup has gotten me excited to see some long course swims as well. Last little bit on the World Cup. I'm curious, we talked about this in a previous breakdown, David, but after seeing this iteration, this year's World Cup, what is one change to the format of the World Cup that you would make?
Yeah. So I know we talked a bit after the first stop about, either adding I advocate for adding a 4th or 5th event to be scored. I still stand by that as being a decently strong option. You've, often talked about your affection for the older World Cups where you get a bunch of different clusters and stuff like that. For me, the biggest one, it's probably going to be just scoring a 4th or 5th event, but that's boring. So I'm going to pivot to another one because we already talked about that. And I would say, because I think Barry did an article about this, kind of going through the way that the performance half of the points are scored, and the fact that we've been kind of seeing, especially after how so many swimmers, like Gretchen Walsh, Kate Douglas, just obliterated some world records during short course worlds, last year's World Cup, kind of being punished for it because they can't score as high of performance points as they maybe should be. Gretchen Walsh is the biggest example, right? I don't think in any of her events swam a time that was slower than anyone but herself, but she
Mhm.
set the bar so ridiculously high that she's not scoring as many points on that half of things. She's not, her swims aren't worth as many aqua points as they maybe should be. So I think there's a lot of different stats and stuff that you could do to try and change. It's like average of the top 10 best performances, set that as the 1,000 point mark. I think an interesting one could be, instead of it being the world record as like the 1,000 threshold, the
Mhm.
second fastest performer. That one feels like it could be to solve
Mhm.
this specific problem of the reigning world record holder, because then if they're not going best times, they can't, beat that mark or anything like that. But then if they're still over a certain, over everyone else but themselves, I think that could be an interesting way to go about it. But some kind of
Mhm.
adjustment. I would like to keep it in a way that is reasonably around out of 10, unless you have an exceptional swim. I think that works really well, having it 10 points and 10
Yeah.
points. Again, you could end up with like 10.2 points or whatever. I think that's fine. I want the math to change. Well, okay, this one's 10, but then realistically, most people are going to average around like 11.5 here, and then it might go up to, let you keeping it nice and round. And
Yeah.
stats people can probably figure that out better than I can. But I think some kind of tweaking there, just to avoid what we've seen is like, oh, sorry, you were too fast before. That kind of sucks for you.
Yeah. No, I like that suggestion, and hopefully that might make it a little easier to follow too. Just because I don't feel like it's completely intuitive. I like the system overall, but again, maybe something a bit easier for fans to follow. Like, it was funny. I was talking to someone in Toronto because before the meet, you had the announcer. Shout out to John Mason, who did a great job throughout the whole circuit, explaining the point system and explaining to the audience like how the scoring works. And I was like, can you imagine at every basketball game you went to if they explained how the scoring works before the game, right? It's like it shouldn't it shouldn't have to be that hard. It's like the ball goes in, you get points. Like, you swim fast, you get points. And I know it's going to be more nuanced than that, obviously, because swimming isn't intuitively about points. It is about the time or the race. But
Now, I don't know if we lost Coleman's internet here again, or it's just on my end and I'm talking over him now, but he's frozen for me. I know he's having some issues with connection last time. But I do agree with the point that Coleman's getting at, is that swimming isn't a game like the other sports, so there's not that inherent baked in point system for it. You do need to explain it a bit. I do like that they have someone explaining it, so that way it's not just trying to figure it out. Oh, now it's just me full screen. Hopefully back in a minute, says Coleman. So I'm just going to keep trying to fill the air here. But yeah, I did like that they had that explanation, because I do think if you are doing a strange kind of non-intuitive point system, not just leaving the audience there to figure it out or explain it as it goes on, just that info dump right at the beginning, especially for people in venue too, that's super effective for that as well. And I do think the one thing that's weird with trying to, because I think conveying information is a very important thing, right? I think this for college dual meets too, that they should show the running score. The one awkward thing with it though is the fact that the numbers kind of look a little funky when they're showing the updates throughout the course of the stop, because one swimmer will have 2 events scored, another swimmer will have all 3 events scored, but that third one's actually an off event. That might go back in. It's probably fine though. Gymnastics actually has a similar problem when they're doing all arounds, because you see the rankings fluctuate all the time because one athlete has done their third apparatus while this another athlete's still waiting and they're going to jump up to the top. So realistically, that's probably a non-issue, especially we might feel it a bit more because it's stretched over 3 days. But I do think that as time goes on with them doing the World Cup, they can probably find a better way to package the information, just because they're going to get better at delivering it and maybe finding ways to convey it. I wish there was some way. I don't know. Maybe they should do it as a graphic on screen. So I'm trying to think of a way you could visually watch and see how good the swim is if you don't have a frame of reference for how fast the swim is. So maybe just always throw up the world record line, and instead of just having, say, world record, have it also a label that says like 1,000 aqua points. Or if you want to keep it with the metric that the points are actually in, 10.0 points as that threshold. Oh, now I'm on the other side, and you're the CEO of SwimSwam.
Oh, whoops. Let me fix that. I'm back.
Congratulations on the promotion, Coleman.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that. My internet's in Brooklyn is spotty. Okay, let's hop back in, David. Where were you?
I was just rambling about points and kind of trying to continue off of your point. No pun intended.
So yeah, I think that is definitely one. I think one that I would love to see, because at the end of the World Cup, we post about the money standings, how much money everyone's made. It's a big part of the World Cup, right? It's a huge incentive. We had several swimmers make close to or over 100K, cracking six figures. But then you have some sports fans who are like, this is abysmal. Like this is our top swimmers should be making much, much more at a premier event than this. And of course I agree. I want to see as much money as possible come into our sport and come into swimming. But one big part of that is that these swimmers aren't getting paid per event win. And that used to be the case at the World Cup. And I think that's a very small change that could add a lot of intrigue, because again, they're not getting paid per event win. They're getting these scores that go toward their overall ranking that then pay them based on their overall ranking. And I like that also, but I don't see why we can't also just have you podium, you win money, bing, bang, boom, And I know it encourages the current system encourages athletes to go to participate in all three stops. And I think that's great too. And I think if you kept the standings, that would still be the case. But it's like, if you win an event, or even if you're like Kasha Wasik, for example, triple crown in the 50 free, but doesn't end up making that much money. She gets the triple crown bonus, 10K, nothing to shake a stick at, but she doesn't get actual prize money per event win in those 50 freestyles, right? And then if she's only placing that high in one event, she's not going to be in the top 8, which I really hope I'm right about that. I hope she wasn't in the top 8. But you see my point of why not give athletes money for getting on the podium in any given event rather than just paying them at the end of the entire circuit. That's
she was 15th.
Exactly.
Or my example, this one that I noticed pretty early on. I don't know if he won any money. I don't know if he made it into the in the. I guess no, probably won small amounts for being in the top, because it's top 20 per stop. But who should have won? I think a significant portion. Sam Short, because he doesn't really have a third event that he can throw in there, and so he's not in the overall rankings. And because he got disrupted by Sarkany in the 1500 and stop number 2, didn't win a triple crown. Also because it's the way it's formatted for the distance swimmers, they only get you got to be good at both. So if you're a 1500 specialist, you're out of luck. If you're an 800 specialist, a 1500 specialist might come and bump you out. Maybe they should just do like a prize pool for the 1500 for the distance events, and then have like the double crown or something for the 800.
I mean, that would, yeah, I think that would be fun. But yeah, it's like you said, it certainly favors some athletes, but it's like you should get paid if you win an event at a World Cup, or if you get on a podium at a World Cup, even one. And that used to be the case. I'm pretty sure when they had 7 or 8 stops, they gave you the check after the meet. It's like, oh, you got a podium, here you go, great. And so it's like, because I think I remember a story of someone like needing to win money to buy their flight home. It's and it worked. They placed, and they got money, and they bought a flight home. But it would be nice to, again, get a little more athletes get a little more money in more athletes' pockets. So I would like to see that.
How big was the because I wasn't really super plugged into the older World Cups. Because they definitely, I feel like, are headlining with things like Triple Crowns, having these like $10,000 bonuses, having, now the Crown Busters, having the $100,000 bonus, a stop bonus. How high was that kind of payout at the end of the whole thing?
That's a good question. I would have to look into that. I'm not exactly sure. But again, it's interesting to think about if you were giving checks to the podium at 7 stops. I mean, I think it used to be between 2 and 5 million total in purse money. And so I'm guessing the bonus payouts for overall wasn't as big. And I don't even know if they used to do top 8 get a bonus. But it sounds right in my head, but I can't be for sure. I know that you got a bonus if you obviously won the whole tour. But but again, it seems like that's something World Aquatics has the budget for, and it would be cool I think it would bring a little more prestige to the World Cup, especially with only 3 stops.
Yeah. And I think also, I think this is something that you're kind of aiming towards too, is talking about that, like during, in addition to the points and stuff like that, during the, how much money they're winning. Because you talk about the SwimSwam articles that are posted, who's winning, stuff like that, conveying that in venue, in the broadcast, stuff like that. They already do that with the world records, the Triple Crowns, as like a running tally might be interesting too, because I think that injects some extra stakes into things if you're not a SwimSwam reader that already knows what is going to be won for the 3rd place finisher at the 2nd stop of the World Cup or stuff like that. Kind of be, whoever wins that, that is also, again, another point for having bonuses for each place and stuff like that too, is okay, whoever wins this race, it gets $5,000 or whatever they decide on, whoever it's a 20-second race, men's 50 free. At the end of it, they're going to be 2 100s apart, and someone's going to get, this amount, someone's going to get that amount, that, they're racing for this much difference, or give it all to the winner. So that way it's like even more like drastic stakes. It's like, winner gets this much, 2nd place gets nothing.
Right. I mean, yeah, that was the fun part about the ISL jackpots.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, just if athletes come into a competition knowing, hey, if I swim well, I can win money here, that adds a whole nother level. Money talks, so it would be fun to see. But hey, we might see it in the future, we might not. Overall, it was a fun World Cup. We saw a lot of fast swims, certainly a lot of fast swims in Toronto at the finale of this 2025 circuit. Okay, on that note, let's move on to the NCAA, where we saw a handful of very fast meets. Octobers are just continuing to be historically the fastest they ever have. Specifically this October, it's going freaking nuts. Swimming is going gangbusters for just the pure speed that we've been seeing. There were a few highlight meets. Texas, Tennessee was a big one. UVA, UNC, we saw a lot of fast swimming out of there. Bella Sims made her NCAA debut for Michigan at Michigan versus UCLA and Northwestern. Those are the 3 highlight meets that I would say stood out to me, certainly. From Texas, Nate German-Prey, 50.6 in the 100 breast. His best is 50.2. And with 6 men from the A final in the 100 breast at last year's NCAA is graduating, he's looking like a favorite, I would say. Also, we saw some speed from Tennessee's Guy Carib, 18.9 on a relay leadoff and to win the individual 50 freestyle. He also won the 100 free the morning session. They split the meet into morning and afternoons. Eva Okaro, Texas freshman from the UK, 47.0 in the 100 free, Texas school record. She has come in and just really made an immediate impact And that it has been very fun to see her have some really fast swims. She was also 21.6 in the 50 free, which didn't even win the event. Camille Spink was 21.4. So we're seeing a lot of speed here. Also from Tennessee, Mackenzie Soroki wins the 100 breast in 57.7, number 3 time in the NCAA this year. That's just off her lifetime best of 57.2. But yeah, a lot of speed from this meet. It was really exciting. I think that was the one that I was looking forward to the most. David, did you have a highlight meet from the NCAA this weekend?
Yeah. I mean, I also think that Texas Tennessee meet was was just super stacked. Another swimmer that was really standing out too was Rex Maurer. He's doing Rex Maurer things. He's now currently holds the fastest time in the NCAA this year in the 500 with a 4:10.75 ahead of Zaylan Sarkany who was a 4:11.39 at the USC invite. He was the one holding that top time there. So that's some decent speed early on there. Obviously, we know how fast he can be in there. And he was also very quick in the 1,000, 8:42.30. He was only 5/100ths behind Stanford's Ethan Ekk.
Mm-hmm. I think
Eck.
I think.
Only so many ways you can pronounce that, I guess. And then he's also very quick in the 400 IM as well. Was exactly 1 second ahead of Baylor Nelson, also for Texas, as they were 3:41.19 and 3:42.19, which was just some nice early speed in those kind of grueling events for Rex Maurer. 500, 400 IM, 1,000. Not a super fun lineup to swim.
Yeah.
Even, they're spreading it out over how many sessions, but like still. And then Bella Sims with that Michigan debut. She's the first woman this year to break 50 seconds in the 100 back, leading off a relay in a 49.87 for the fastest time this year, which is, yeah. I mean, she was looking good she just swam Westmont, right? She popped in for that stop. And she was
Carmel and Westmont.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, just not Toronto. And she was already looking decently quick at those stops. I think probably the highlight, at least for me, was at Westmont when she was real, or maybe it was Carmel. One of the two, she was really putting some pressure on in that 100 backstroke. And so she's been looking really good. And it's kind of one of those when you see a high profile move like that from Florida over to Michigan for somewhere of that level, kind of really want to keep an eye on it for the first couple meets, see how they're fitting in, how they're looking. Are they gonna pop off at the end of the year? So far, not a huge amount of sample size, but she's looking good so far.
She is. And I know she got on the podium in the 100 back in Carmel. I don't remember what her result was in Westmont, but she certainly looked
third in Westmont.
Okay. So she's looked quite, and again, this is third to Reagan Smith and Kaylee McEwen. So let's keep that in context. So she's been looking really great. It is insane that Rex Maurer went 4:10 in the 500 free, and that wasn't even the headline for the recap article.
Right.
Which just, I mean, it tells you how far that event has been taken down, but also how far he has taken that event, being the number 2 performer of all time and having a best of 4:04, that it's like, oh, Rex goes to 4:10. Thumbs up for him.
Remember when the NCAA record was a 4:08? Yeah. Forever
and ever and ever. So 4:10. I remember when 4:10 won NCAAs, and now it's a time that people go in October and it doesn't make a headline.
So inflation is real.
No kidding. So, lots of fast college swimming. Also, I have to shout out a few UVA women. Sarah Curtis, also freshman, 21.1 in the 50 freestyle. Yeah. That's a flat start 50 free, not from a relay. Anna Moish, 46.5 in the 100 free, and Claire Curzan, 147.8 in the 200 backstroke, which, again, we saw a lot of fast swims, but those were just a few of the highlights from the 5-time defending NCAA champion women that were just pretty nuts. So yeah, a lot of good stuff from the NCAA. Now let's finish up with a few quick sink or swims. First up today, going back to the World Cup. Once again, we had an historic night on that last night of Toronto. We saw 5 short course meters world records go down in one session. I am curious if you think we will see 5 short course meters world records go down in totality at the 2025 Short Course European Championships this December.
Do we know? I know it's not particular close. Like, do we know how many like high profile swimmers have committed to swim at this meet?
Casper Corbeau is, I know. You have
so that's a threat.
That's a threat. Quite a high profile French contingency, highlighted by Maxime Grousset and Olympic medalist Anastasia Krupishnikova, although I don't know how close she might get to those distance world records. Specifically, Hubie Koch, I don't know if he's swimming. We might have reported on that, but I'm not sure. I'm guessing it will be a bit of a priority meet for a lot of Europeans, but I just don't know, especially for those Europeans based in the US. I'm not sure which of them will decide to go.
Since I'm unsure, I'm going to sink it and hope that they take it as a challenge. Specifically, Maxime Grousset. It'd be funny if we have a 4th swimmer under 48 seconds.
Holy moly. That would be insane. Yeah, I mean, that would be crazy. I think I'm going to sink that as well, just because majority of the world records we saw in the World Cup did not come from Europeans. Yeah. And I'm hoping I'm correct in saying that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's like Corbeau, and then I don't know if anyone.
Yeah, I'm thinking Australians, Americans.
Corbeau and Koch.
Corbeau and Koch were the 2 main ones. So, yeah, I don't think so. And that is insane to say that at the World Cup, we saw drastically more world records than we will at like an actual championship meet. Which I'm still very excited to see how Short Course Europeans goes. That's always a quick meet. It's always fun to see a Short Course meters meet that is a championship meet like that. So I think it'll be a really good meet. But 5 world records is uncommon, no matter how common it looked in Toronto. Okay, let's shift the focus slightly. 5 world records, one night in Toronto. Will we see 5 long course meter world records in 2026? And I'll throw in US Open at the end of 2025 as well. So in that 13-month span, will we see 5 long course world records this coming year? And remember, we have European Championships in Paris. We have Pan-Pacific Championships in Irvine. And then right before that, I believe we have Commonwealth Games somewhere. I don't remember where.
In a pool.
But those are the 3 major long course championships happening this year.
I am going to swim it just because there's a wealth of opportunities of swimmers who are either knocking on the door of world records or are current world record holders that have set world records in the most recent season that feel like they're still on a good trajectory. Like, Summer McIntosh could take a swing at a couple.
I was about to be like, Siri, will Summer McIntosh be falling in a pool this year?
Yes.
Yes? All right.
We saw Gretchen Walsh, break her world record at a pro swim series in the 100 butterfly, and then also has been making moves in the 50 butterfly. Maybe could take that crown from Sostrom. Lonnie Pallister's getting faster in the 800 free. Could she take down Ledecky's world record, or could Ledecky break it for the second year in a row?
Oh,
I want to throw out a hot take for reward.
Those are fighting words, David.
To the end of the episode. I do think it's slightly more likely that Ledecky breaks it herself, but you never know. Never know. What if she keeps getting faster?
I do think it's funny that, like, I think everyone you mentioned was on the women's side, which I think justly illustrates the state of swimming right now, where women's swimming has never been in a better place internationally, I don't think.
Yeah. The main reason I'm not mentioning any, because the one you would really mention is Leon Marchand. He feels like much more tapped into that long Olympic to Olympic cycle, where I feel like he's probably not going to, but he could still just do something stupid in an event because he's Leon Marchand is the thing. But I just feel like it's slightly less compared to Gretchen Walsh, right? Who's just fast over and over and over again. Marchand tends to be that kind of swimmer that really needs to focus in at a big meet at the year. And also seems like, even just listening to the way Bowman kind of talked about like his first meet back last season, really seemed like he's kind of got his plan working already for LA and has everything pointed towards that. Coach might need another year of cooking if he's going to try and take down a long course backstroke world record, but he could definitely has earned a spot in the conversation. I think. And I think there's a lot of opportunities of, from relatively high possibility, high likelihood to they're in the conversation, but they might need to be
Cam
really
McAvoy 50 free.
Oh, I've been rooting for that for like the last 2 years.
Like I would classify that as like in the conversation, right? Like could happen.
I just want him to go to faster than the enhanced world record. Sorry, I'm on the fighting words mood.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of people are in that boat as well. Of like, come on, it'll be a really interesting year, right? Because last year, I feel like the post-Olympic year, you're always going to see a lot of fast swimming because either you have these newcomers who are just continuing to ascend and inspired by the Olympics, or you have a group of athletes that probably didn't do as well as they wanted to at the Olympics. And so they have this chip on their shoulder of like, I have to make up for that. The prime example of that in my mind would be Noe Ponti, who did, I think got 4th or 5th in both butterflies in Paris, then went to the World Cup last season and just went on a complete tear like a madman, and then shows up at World Champs this summer, double silver in the 50 and 100 fly. And so I'm really interested to see what this year is going to be like, because certainly the lowest pressure year of the quad, right? There is no world meet. There is no major international long course championships for the entire world. And so it is a year to experiment. It is probably a year to get a really good year of training under your belt. It's certainly a longer season because everything is either late July or for the US, it's mid-August. Or sorry, for Pan Pacs, for all those countries going to Pan Pacs, mid-August. So it's really going to be interesting. But like you said, there's going to be a lot of racing opportunities and a lot of opportunities for people to experiment and be like, you know what? I want to go fast here. I want to go fast now. Why not? Let's see how it works. And so there were a lot of athletes at World Cup talking about US Open, and it kind of like made my ears go up of like, how good is US Open going to be? There's a lot of athletes coming to this meet and wanting to get those long course race reps in. And so I'll to say, I'll be optimistic. I'm going to swim it. 5 world records in 2026. Like you said, I think there are a lot of live athletes out there who could make those strides and could break their own world records or world records of others. And I think 5 is reasonable for a non-Olympic or World Championships year.
I think also another point that I just thought of, you talk about Pan Pacs, right? Is so, one of our bigger culprits is potentially a lot of our, especially on the women's side, Americans, right? Kate Douglas could try and take a swing at that massive 200 breaststroke world record. A big ask, but she's still fast. But then also Gretchen Walsh, Katie Ledecky, Bobby Finka, our current active potential threat in that mile. Pan Pacs is in the United States. So if there's a time from a pure performance standpoint for them to be a bit more on their game, swimming on home soil might do it a bit more. So that might be a little extra boost. And between them, you have 5 opportunities of varying degrees of potential success.
Listen, We saw Gretchen Walsh swim outdoors in Fort Lauderdale and what it can do. We saw Katie Ledecky do the same thing. If you've ever been to a meet in Irvine, you know that that pool is nice. You know that going to a final session in Irvine is comfy. If it's not that windy, it feels great. You're in the sun is just going down. You'll have full stands on both sides. It's a good place. The Irvine pool records, I would love to see that list. If you're a commenter out there and you can track that down, I mean, I'm sure someone at SwimSwam could as well, but the Irvine pool records, because remember, they hosted Pan Pacs in 2010. They've hosted numerous national level meets throughout decades at this point. There have been a lot of fast swims in Irvine. So I think that trend will continue this summer.
Can they invite Popovich?
David, you want to be an honorary Canadian? God, that'd be fun. Because I'm guessing the pool in Paris, they'll use the Olympic pool, and so I don't think that will be for Europeans.
Just rip the roof off for them.
Seriously.
You want to see a 45?
We want to see a 45. Oh, well. Okay. And last but not least on Sink or Swim today, I don't even know if we talked about this in another breakdown because we were so focused on the World Cup. Aaron Titmus retired. And I think if you would have asked anyone to sink or swim this before it happened, everyone would have sunk this.
Yeah, or said she would have done that for Paris.
Right. Like I think a lot of people thought she might go through LA. She certainly had the Olympics of her life, pulling the double. She defended her 200 and 400 free Olympic titles. I'm sorry, that's not true. She defended her 400 free Olympic title. She was silver in the 200 free to her teammate Molly O'Callaghan. She had a great Olympics in Paris, and so
went out as the world record holder in both.
Still the world record holder in the 200 free. So it's like, yeah, I don't think a lot of people saw this coming, but she made a great post about it. She said, hey, I'm ready to be done. Can't falter for it. So this week's poll on SwimSwam was about what her best career performance was, which she had several. She put together quite the body of work in really just 5 years, at where she was kind of at the top of her game.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. The most voted for was the Fukuoka 2023 World Championship 400 free, where she broke the world record 355 against Katie Ledecky and Summer McIntosh, prime both. And she beat them both in world record fashion. I'm curious if you agree with that sentiment.
Yes, I agree with that. I'm swimming this in a huge way just because I was already thinking this because I was kind of like, okay, I kind of want to do a video, and I was like writing to my head, and I was kind of thinking about that part. I'm like, probably going to mention this as I think the best swim of her career, because that not only insanely fast reclaimed the world record from Summer McIntosh. It was so fast and such a decisive win over those two at, very peak years of their career and peak ability. Ledecky was going fast. McIntosh didn't have the greatest performance in that race, but just had broken Titmus's world record in there. She took what was going to build as kind of how the women's 800 freestyle just ended up being in 2025 of, this race of the century. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be such a close race. And she ruined that narrative because she won it by too much. It's like if the men's race of the century and in 2004 wouldn't be nearly as well remembered if Thorpe just ripped out ahead of everyone by a body length. But okay, cool. It's fun while it lasted, I guess. She just put the hurt on that entire field, broke the world record. And I think that was just such a well executed swim, such an insane closing split too, that made that world record line so hard for people to chase down at the, as McIntosh was trying to catch it. It took her a few more tries to get it. And so I think everything together made that a just one of the most impressive swims I've seen out of her. And I think, is also one that doesn't necessarily rely on her punching up and beating Katie Ledecky or something like that. It's
Yeah.
her as one, already at the top of her game, defending that spot, getting her world record back, and beating them in such a spectacular fashion.
And while I totally get that argument, I mean, it's kind of like, do you think dominance versus clutch, right, is like more impressive or the better performance? And I voted for her win against Ledecky in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics in the 400 free because
I win Olympics.
I did, yeah,
Not
because
19.
not 19, and here's why.
Ledecky was sick.
I mean, and I know that's whatever. That was the narrative. It was epic when she beat Ledecky in 2019. First time Ledecky's lost in that race in 6 or 7 years. But it's not an Olympic title. And then we find out Ledecky's sick. And then the Olympics get postponed. And so you have like kind of all this buildup. And sure, Titmus is still the underdog. And sure, she has taken down Ledecky once. But to have that moment will stand out to me more than the 2023 moment. And just in my, I think on paper, your argument is better. But I think to me that the moment of Titmus dethroning Ledecky on the Olympic stage, coming from behind, Ledecky swimming her race, like going out, and you're like, oh, this is classic Ledecky. Like she's doing it. 2019 was a sham. Like that shouldn't have happened. Not a sham, but it's like she was sick, like she's back in it. And then to have Titmus swim her race, back half Ledecky, like come from behind victory, win an Olympic medal, have her coach Dean Boxall have the iconic reaction that he does. Like that moment to me was like, okay, Ariarne Titmus is here. And I think that will stand out in my mind as like the defining moment of her career to me. So that's why I would think that Fukuoka in 2023 was the best performance of her career. But again, I think on paper, it's probably easier to argue that one.
I think it's interesting too, that it feels like we just subjectively kind of remember have greater emphasis on each of those moments. Because for me, the same way you look back fondly on and remember like just that shock and awe of her coming back on Ledecky on the Olympic stage. I will say Dean Boxall might actually be enough to objectively push it over the top. But for me, I have that same kind of memory and fondness looking back on it with that final 50 as she just she takes like a narrow lead. It's like, oh, she's going. Like it reminds me kind of like Phelps in Rio in the 200 IM, that freestyle, where it's like, yeah. Oh, he's gone. It's that I kind of have that same fondness for that final 50 in that moment where it was, oh, you just blew up this narrative that everyone was building about the race of the century.
Yeah. And certainly I think that was one of the best, if not the best women's races of the decade, because it was like those three at their peak. It was just like Titmus was way more ready for that moment than the other two were. And again, I think it's very easy to argue that does make it the best performance of her career, but
there's probably not a wrong answer.
Dean Boxall. But yeah, so I mean, what a career from Ariarne Titmus. There are several epic moments, but I hope she sticks around the pool, and I hope we see more of her, maybe in a reporting fashion, or just on the mic. Or just on deck hanging out. But she was certainly a great presence to have while we had her in the pool. So happy retirement, Ariarne Titmus. And that's our show for the day. Thanks everyone for tuning in. World Cup's over. NCAA is really just getting going. We're not even to November yet. So stick around.